The Lonesome Road, the final DLC to Fallout New Vegas. So after my success at doing a level 1 run with Dead Money, I decided that I would do this with Lonesome Road next, because I figured Lonesome Road would be the next hardest. Although this time I did decide to limit myself to not being able to take the Rad Child perk, because that made the previous DLC a little bit too easy. I don't know if that's really going to be that big of a deal in Lonesome Road, though. So we're going to be diving into this head first, starting out at level 1. Right at the start of New Vegas, of course, we have to pick our character, and this is what I decided to go with. The special stats here honestly don't matter too much, and honestly I could have done this a whole lot better with what we ended up using throughout this. Would have been a whole lot better to go with melee. I decided to go with guns, medicine, and repair. As well as I did grab 2 traits from this, being skilled, because it's arguably the best trait in the entire game, and Logan's Loophole, because we're probably not going to be getting to level 30, and at a certain point in this video, we are definitely going to have to rely on chems just to keep our body together. After this, I do the usual things that we do in New Vegas, so loot everything from Doc Mitchell's house, run over to Chet, sell it all, buy what little I can. I decided to sell all of our stuff that we started out with, that way I didn't really have any advantage, besides the 9mm pistol that we started out with, thanks to just picking guns as our starting skill, and we are off to the Lonesome Road. Luckily, it's really easy to get here at level 1, as it's very close to the start. It's actually the very closest DLC that you can get to. To the Lonesome Road, we should be level 25 or higher. Well, level 1 should be good enough. So first things first, just like always with the Lonesome Road, we do have to get Eddie here. And Eddie is going to be our buddy all the way throughout this, and we're probably going to have to rely on him because we don't do the most amount of damage early on. But Eddie can do some damage. He's also unkillable, so that certainly helps for this. Even on the hardcore difficulty, and I am playing this on the very hard hardcore, Eddie also gives us access to all the vendors here, which will be pretty useful for us because they do sell a lot of decent stuff, including upgrades, as well as we can repair our equipment at them. We can't really buy much right now, but we do manage to get ourselves an arc welder, and usually this weapon is considered one of the weakest weapons in the game. However, it does do extra damage towards robots, and speaking of robots, this is actually our first enemies that we're going to have to be fighting. Protect us, Eddie! Hang in there, buddy! Let's see, do I have anything that can kind of help with this? I don't have any ammo for the nail gun. I got some 10mm rounds, though. Heck yeah. Okay, one's dead. And also, lucky enough, there are some dead marked men around here, which gives us some new armor as well as a new weapon, the Bowie Knife. The Bowie Knife is going to be very, very useful throughout here. Alright. Excellent work, Eddie. Just like most of these runs, I end up doing the patented corner sitting strat, so just sit in a corner, hope that your ally does most of the work, and then peek out every once in a while to take pot shots at the enemy. Hopefully you don't take a missile to the face, otherwise that kind of ends us. Get him, Eddie, get him! Mess him up. I don't know if my thing actually has this long to reach. I hope it does. Yeah, it's kind of hurt. Well, it was kind of hurting him until I ran out of ammo. Eddie is more than enough to take on these robots, and we managed to get out of here in at least one piece. And this is when we were first introduced to Ulysses, the previous courier that was carrying the platinum chip that we needed to take to Vegas. He is not particularly happy with us.
Thought carrying that chip would end you. No. You got lives in you. Hard to kill. Storms, bullets, sand and wind. Yet still you walk. For now.
He also speaks for a very long time. Funny enough, if you skip through Ulysses' dialogue in this DLC, you can actually beat it in about an hour or so. It's actually not a very long DLC if you're skipping Ulysses' dialogue, because that takes up about the other 2 to 3 hours that you might get all the lore from. At least if you came here at a reasonable level. Since we came here at level 1, the DLCs do scale to your level, and so do the enemies, so the marked men around here won't have the best gear that they can possibly have. In order for them to have that, we would need to go here at least at level 20 or so, which is actually what's recommended to go here. That's not to say they don't have good gear, though, because, as you can see when we enter into some of these buildings, they've got some pretty crazy weapons, like shish kebabs, trail carbines, and the Blade of the West. Okay, if they have arc welders, that's not so bad, but... Ow. No. That's not good. Fighting these guys is extremely difficult. Melee is kind of our go-to here, but upon killing these marked men, I did manage to get at least a 12.7mm pistol, and then naturally I went right back to running around in circles through the building, trying to shoot these guys. I managed to stop these guys from showing up to the building, repaired my 12.7mm pistol, bought some extra ammo, and this was able to put down the marked men. This managed to level us up a couple of times. By this point I was actually level 4. This isn't strictly a level 1 only run. I do plan on doing that in the future for Fallout, and I think that's going to be really fun. But this one did snag me a couple of weapons that were pretty useful, things like the 12.7mm pistol, the Blade of the West, and a trail carbine, and I did manage to find a sniper rifle. Sniper rifle is actually really common throughout this DLC, although 308 rounds are not the most common. It is really nice that at least Lonesome Road gives you tons of ammo in every ammo box though, so at least we have something, even if they're for guns that we can't really use too well. It also really helps that the marked men happen to have the really bad weapons, like arc welders and flare guns. That's going to make this whole thing a lot easier, and also just sitting back and sniping with things like our sniper rifle. Although I did manage to also find a hunting shotgun throughout this, and the hunting shotgun is a pretty great shotgun. It's my favorite shotgun in the game. This whole starting section to Lonesome Road, which is usually just exploring it, killing the marked men out, and actually getting to the laser detonator, took me the longest part of this entire DLC. The marked men are extremely strong. I don't have very much HP, and sometimes they have really powerful weapons like tri-beam lasers or hunting revolvers. A few of these I managed to grab and use a little bit, but none of these would really be the strongest weapon that I could find in this DLC. I was already taking a ton of chems at this point, because at least there is a decent amount in this DLC, and thanks to Logan's loophole, we weren't getting addicted to any of them. This took me the entirety of a day to actually get through the town. It was a very long fought fight, going from building to building and actually killing each of these marked men, and luckily I had stocked up at least on enough ranged rounds to be fighting enemies at a distance. I do remember this area in my 10 times enemy run being kind of difficult because there's so many explosives. I don't even know where I can shoot through and hit you though. Take him out, Eddie. Okay, now you can get up, Eddie. You should be safe now. To get to our first unique weapon of the Lonesome Road, which is the red glare. Alright, let's lose some weight real quick. Take him down, Eddie. Sorry if I'm hitting you, Eddie. This is probably one of the safest explosive weapons to be using at this range. This is a missile launcher that seems to get a lot of hate from the community, honestly. When I was playing this, it seemed like a lot of people did not like this weapon, which I'm kind of surprised by, because it is an explosive weapon, and it seems to work quite well against the marked men. It's actually pretty good overall, and it's one of the few explosive weapons you can use at very close range, because the splash damage is pretty minimal, and it doesn't even break your limbs all that quickly. And we managed to get the laser detonator. And this unlocks the next area of the map, which is the underground. For this, I decided to brandish my new 12-gauge pump-action shotgun, and we take on the tunnelers. The tunnelers are some of the strongest enemies in this game as well. They are based after the Trogs from, well, Fallout 3, and use the same models like the Spore People. They just look a little bit different. They can burrow up out of the ground, they can hit you really hard and kill you very quickly. Some of these are venomous as well, and that makes it so fighting these guys can be a little bit more rough. The shotgun takes them down pretty quick. Going through this section wasn't super difficult as I had stocked up on ammo and managed to repair most of my gear, so we were in a pretty good spot. After this though, we end up getting to the high road, where once again we get a massive dialogue dump by Ulysses here. I skip through it because we don't really need to hear it, and we run into our first named marked men. Now these guys have unique helmets that you can throw on, which are kind of cool. They give you a little bit of a bonus, and they're kind of better than what I got on currently, so I'm going to be wearing those. As well as they have another unique weapon of the Divide, which is the shoulder-mounted machine gun. A very interesting machine gun that uses the 10mm round, and I decided to use it here against, well, pretty much all the other marked men that are sadly not equipped with very good stuff. They once again have things like arc welders and flare guns, so taking them down is pretty simple. This also unlocks the next area where we can climb up, and we can get the advanced riot gear here. This is going to be our best armor, at least to this point. The only one that's better than this in the Divide is pretty much the elite riot gear, which we can get later on, and I don't think I actually grab it in this playthrough, but you can get it a little bit later on if you would like to. We also run into the death claws that are in the Divide. Can I shoot through it, or does it only work for him? I can only work for him. Yep. I got folded in half, my head's not even sitting the right way around. And this is where things got a little bit tricky, because I had gotten up levels at this point, and I had even gotten the Super Slam perk, as well as the Blade of the West has extra knockdown chance. So every time I ran into a Deathclaw at this point, it was pretty much a 50-50, where if I knocked the Deathclaw down, we could then kill them pretty easily, because we could just wail on them and they couldn't fight back. However, if that didn't occur, then we would likely trade, and the Deathclaw only had to hit me one more time, so there was a good chance that even on the second swing, if I knocked it down, I was also going to get hit. The flare gun does scare away Deathclaws if they're hit directly, as well as it can also scare away things like the tunnelers. It's also very convenient that we're up this high, because you can knock the Deathclaws off the side here, and that does make it a little bit easier than it otherwise would be. Moving down the side of the high road, we come across a building that is destroyed over here, and we grab the Lonesome Road snow globe here. This will get us some extra caps, which is kind of useful. And then after this, we come across our most difficult enemy in this entire game, the satchel charges. Alright, satchel charges, very scary. These things suck. They have an extremely short fuse. Even if you have maxed out explosives, they have a very short fuse. They deal really high damage, and they're pretty much guaranteed to ragdoll you if you don't die from them. The main problem here is that we do not have enough HP no matter what we do. Even with buff out and medics, we cannot even take a single satchel charge hit. And trying to disarm them doesn't go well several times. I'm pretty sure the satchel charges killed me the most in this DLC out of all of the things that killed me, even more so than like the marked men and the Deathclaws, just because if I came across any of them and stepped on them, I was instantly dead. So rather than trying to actually disarm them the regular way, the hunting shotgun will once again prove itself useful, as we can just shoot these explosives and then we can set them off. The only downside here, though, is once again you have to see them, and they blend in with absolutely everything. So taking our time really slow here, we do manage to clear out the minefield. After this, there's a couple more marked men. These guys are pretty easy to beat, though, as again, the Blade of the West allows us to just bully anything that comes near us, especially if they want to fight us one-on-one. It's only a problem if there's multiple enemies. Clearing through this section, we get over to this area where we can launch another ICBM, which we promptly do, and Ulysses blames us for that, but that's okay, it doesn't really matter. We needed to do that to progress the story, and into the bunker we go, where this area is probably the area I was dreading the most out of this DLC, because this whole area has a bunch of tunnelers. The whole screen is shaking, and they just keep jumping onto our elevator here. One strategy that I found that worked out quite well, though, was actually using the red glare here, because we had saved up so many missiles for this, and there's a very high chance that we cripple any of the tunnelers here. So I actually managed to get through this section relatively easy, even if I couldn't see what was going on 90% of the time. Upon completing the building, we get out to where the marked men have set up more camps, and you'd think that this area would be getting easier for us as we are getting stronger, but not really. What? Did I find another satchel? For the rest of this DLC, we can pretty much just explore the surrounding areas, fight any of the marked men that we come across, as well as the elite riot gear is here. I forgot to grab it though, so we were just rocking the advanced riot gear, which is still decent enough, and I managed to go back, buy some more bullets, buy some more healing from the vendors, and also upgrade my gear. I then decided that we were going to be taking on raar. Let us fight raar. Our battle shall be legendary. Oh, no, never mind. I'm gonna die with one hit. Round 2, then. We shall begin. Okay, so I have Mauler, which has a guaranteed knockdown chance, so I'm gonna abuse that, raar. It wasn't a fair fight the other way, it's not gonna be a fair fight this time either. Oh hey, I got something for crippling him. There we go. After one of the most epic duels with raar, we decided to go see Ulysses at his temple. I did unlock Eddie at this point. You can leave Eddie behind in order to get a different perk if you would like. The Ulysses fight here is incredibly difficult, at least with our current build, because we don't really do enough damage to him, and he can absolutely do enough damage to us, as well as at this point I ran myself pretty much out of chems and pretty much out of healing. So this fight took multiple attempts to actually beat him, as we couldn't convince him to be on our side, and it was not easy, as well as the marked men showing up to throw grenades at you is never fun. This took me about 8 attempts to actually beat Ulysses here. It wasn't until I could just keep circling around and fighting him with the Blade of the West that we were able to actually fight him, and just pray that he didn't either pull out his 50 cal or use Old Glory to beat us down, because his melee was better than ours. Fun fact too, Ulysses is actually one of the 2 characters throughout Fallout's history that has perfect 10s in every special stat, where he's got 10 everything. The only other character that's like that is Frank from Fallout 2.
But then you haven't met Frank Horrigan either. Your ride's over, Muty. Time to die.
We did use Eddie here to actually turn off the nukes rather than nuking anybody. This sadly does destroy Eddie, but it does give us some extra fame. You can really do whatever you'd like here, whether you want to nuke Caesar's Legion, nuke the NCR, nuke both of them, or nuke none of them. It's completely your choice. I decided to do none of them, and we got the ending here. So we were able to beat the Lonesome Road at level 1. There still is one more place that I would like to go on the Lonesome Road though, which is the Courier's Mile. This is the most irradiated area in this zone. It's also the scariest area in this zone, as there is a ton of markmen. There is also the irradiated Deathclaws, which are far stronger than every other Deathclaw and can, in fact, one-shot us, no matter how we go about this. But at least we get Bloodnap out of it.
It's said, war never changes. Men do, through the roads they walk. And this road has reached its end.